Brazilians seem to make everything smaller.
Cafezinho, minutinho, favorzinho.
But here's the strange part. Most of these things aren't actually small. So why do Brazilians use diminutives all the time? In today's lesson, you'll learn that in Brazilian Portuguese, the diminutive doesn't just change the size of a word, but it's the secret key to Brazilian warmth, hospitality, and even sarcasm. By the end of today's lesson, you'll start noticing these little endings everywhere. Olá, pessoal! Before we discover why Brazilians love diminutives, let's see how they are formed. Most learners rely on pequeno, pequena, small or little, for everything. For example, casa, casa pequena. Livro, livro pequeno. That's perfectly correct. But Brazilians, instead of adding another word, simply change the noun itself. Casa becomes casinha. Livro, livrinho. Bolo, bolinho. Café, cafezinho. Mão, mãozinha. Favor, favorzinho. Notice the pattern? Most diminutives are formed by adding inho, inha, or zinho, zinha. Don't worry about all the spelling details for now. Just get familiar with these sounds. Inho, inha, zinho, zinha, because the surprising part is about to come. Why do Brazilians use the diminutive? Let's start with the most obvious meaning. Sometimes the diminutive really does mean small. For example, a house, uma casa. A small house, uma casinha. A dog, cachorro, cachorrinho. The same happens with other words, as in copo, copinho. Bolo, bolinho. Uma colher, uma colherzinha. So far, everything feels pretty logical. But that's actually the least interesting use of the diminutive. Let's say you're visiting a Brazilian friend and she asks,
Quer cafezinho?
She's not necessarily offering you a doll-sized cup of coffee. No, here the diminutive is no longer describing size. Cafezinho sounds warmer, friendlier, and more welcoming than café. It's the kind of word that makes the invitation feel more personal.
Quer cafezinho?
Another example. Let's say that later that evening another friend texts you. Vamos tomar uma cervejinha? Again, your friend is not talking about a tiny beer. No, he's inviting you to relax. Vamos tomar uma cervejinha? Or maybe someone offers dessert. Quer docinho? Quer docinho? So the diminutive isn't changing the object anymore. It's changing the atmosphere of the conversation. Now be careful with the next use of the diminutive. Imagine you're waiting to pay at a bakery. The cashier looks at you and says,
Só minutinho.
She isn't talking about one tiny minute. No, here the diminutive isn't about time. It's about politeness. Instead of sounding abrupt, só minuto, Brazilians soften that, saying só minutinho. The same thing happens with só segundinho. Só segundinho. Other examples. Oh, it will be real quick. Vai ser rapidinho. Vai ser rapidinho. Can you do me a favor? Você pode me fazer favorzinho? Você pode me fazer um favorzinho? Can you give me a hand? Você pode me dar uma mãozinha? Você pode me dar uma mãozinha? The same thing happens with bad news. Instead of saying, tivemos um problema, someone might say, tivemos um probleminha.
Tivemos um probleminha. Seu bolo queimou um pouquinho.
Your cake burned a little. Seu bolo queimou um pouquinho. The situation may not be ideal, but the diminutive helps make it sound less serious. Now the next use will definitely surprise you. Imagine you are walking at the park and suddenly you hear a child calling.
Vem aqui, cachorrinho.
Oh, you turn around expecting a tiny puppy, but instead a huge golden retriever comes running. Exactly. Vem aqui, cachorrinho. Here the diminutive expresses affection, not size. It makes the word sound sweeter, more intimate, more loving. Vem aqui, cachorrinho. Brazilians do this all the time, especially with children, as in, these are my children.
Estes são meus filhinhos.
Grandkids.
Estes são meus netinhos.
The diminutive adds emotional warmth. It even happens with people's names. Paulinho, Aninha, Ronaldinho. In fact, some Brazilian nicknames become so common that many people are better known by the diminutive than by the original names. Now, watch out for the next use of the diminutive. Sarcasm. Sometimes Brazilians use the diminutive to mean exactly the opposite, as in, is that massive 3-layer burger for him? What a light snack! Que lanchinho leve! Que lanchinho leve! Que cachorro calminho! Que cachorro calminho! So here's the lesson. When Brazilians use the diminutive, don't immediately think about signs. Think about context. Think about the speaker's tone of voice, because that's where the real meaning lives. And now I'm curious, what's the most surprising diminutive you've ever heard in Brazilian Portuguese? Tell me in the comments, I'd love to know. And if you want to sound even more natural in Brazilian Portuguese, click here and I'll see you there.